everyone who is hopping in. If you did not attend our first learning lab that we did a couple weeks ago, welcome. My name is Jenna. I'm joined with the rest of my team, which is Kate and Julia, and we make up the client engagement team at TDS Health. So our focus is to look at the products that you already have and give some ideas of how to better utilize them and provide supports to get those out to your students, your residents, your other faculty members, whoever you're trying to get in there and get going. So today specifically, we're going to be covering StatPearls, which is one of the resources that we work with specifically. So if you have fallen into here and you're not a current subscriber of StatPearls, that's okay. You're welcome to just sit in and learn a little bit about it. You might learn something that you like. And then for our current users, we're going to go ahead and walk through some of the material there and give you some ideas of how to utilize it from an admin perspective and also for your students. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, so on here, you're going to see our topics that we're going to cover today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at the StatPearls LMS system, talking about that setup, some LMS integration options with your own LMS, managing the groups and users, and then Julia will do a little bit more of a deep dive on the actual faculty tools, setting up assignments, all of that good stuff. If at any point you have any questions, I'll pause for questions here and there. I do talk quite a bit, so you are welcome to drop those in the Q&A. Kate will be facilitating those. If something comes up, feel free to drop that in there. We'll make sure to get to that. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and give a background on StatPearls. So for those who are not that familiar with it, StatPearls is a healthcare education platform that provides a learning system with over 10,000 peer-reviewed PubMed articles. So there's a lot of content in there for your students, residents to be utilizing, and those also come with a corresponding set of question banks. So variety of different specialties, different types of material for you to utilize to get your students in there and learning about different topics that is pertinent to them. They have also some continuing education resources, and their entire motto is content is king. So there's a lot of content to be utilized in there and different ways to push that material to your students, depending on what their preference of learning is and what your preference of teaching is. So I'm going to go ahead and open up StatPearls so we can go ahead and take a look right out the gate. So this may be familiar to you. This is what the user side of StatPearls would look like. So over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see this LMS admin side. For some clarity, when StatPearls refers to the LMS admin, they're referring to their own learning management system. So the learning management system of the product itself. So this is where, as an administrator, you can do all those good things like adding users, looking at individual users, creating and managing groups, assignments, all of that. So when we're talking about the StatPearls LMS, that's what we are referring to. For those who actively have a StatPearls subscription and have that set up, you may have already experienced this, but some of the ways that we set up the LMS for StatPearls is either by a roster of students and faculty you'd like to get in there and utilize. We also have the ability to do IP authentication as well as email domain. So those are some of the ways we can set up the StatPearls LMS for you, create a unique URL to get your students in there and utilizing. We also have the ability in here, you can invite users directly. So you'll see over here on the right-hand side, you've got invite via email and invite via CSV. So we have those abilities in here for you to do. So one of the main things when we get started with a StatPearls subscription is setting up an organizational administrator. What that means is that's the administrator who has the privileges to invite users, create groups, promote other users, and really start that structure of creating the organization of how you want the classes built and all of that. So that is one of our first steps that we do. If you are not an administrator, we can talk through some of the ways to get that set up for you. But specifically, organizational administrators, those are those overarching accounts who can create all the different groups and users and have all the privileges. Um, when we talk about LMS integration for StatPearls, we do have the ability to actually integrate your own learning management system. So whether that's Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, whatever you utilize, there is the ability to integrate that where the rosters of the courses, the faculty, the classes, that happens automatically. So it's a lot less manual work for setting up things for you all. So if that's something that you're looking to set up, please reach out to us. We can talk about how that can be done on our end. But what we'll be covering today, especially, is going to be for those who don't have that. So for me, setting up the users and the groups. Any
Jenna,
questions?
yeah, I
Yes.
have a question. Somebody is not seeing that LMS admin tab. And so I think they're asking how would they get access to be an admin in an account?
Gotcha. Okay, so if you're not seeing over on the left-hand side, the LMS admin, you're probably just a standard user in the system. So if you know who your organization administrator is, feel free to reach out to them and they can promote you. If you don't know and you're a faculty member, reach out to us at the end of this webinar and we'll be able to walk you through how to set that up and get that fixed for you. So yeah, if you're not seeing this on the left-hand side, that means you're probably just a standard user of the system, so we can make that shift for you.
Okay, and then another question is about the connecting somebody's LMS. How would somebody go about connecting their LMS and how involved is that?
Sure. So, as you can probably imagine, it's case by case on the level of involvement because we do have to get your IT team involved and all of those individuals. So, it could take a little bit of time, but again, reach out to us after the webinar. We can talk about setting that up. For other products that you've utilized for LMS integration where they pull those rosters and classes directly, it's going to work pretty similarly. So, we'll just have to get some material from you to start that out. So, again, just feel free to reach out to us after the call and we can talk through the steps of how to get that going.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. Typically it's for pretty large accounts where it's pretty complex. And there's a lot of users, a lot of test banks. Somebody might purchase a pretty robust collection from StatPearls, and they'll want to connect the LMS in that case. So, okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, great. So, great questions. Thanks for asking. So what I'm going to walk through really quickly is just what this looks like on the inside from a user and group management perspective. So you'll see I'm under my LMS admin and looking specifically at the user. So right here for an organization administrator is going to be all the utilizers of the subscription itself. So you'll see we have a collection of different TDS members in here that are utilizing our subscription. Again, like I said before, you have the ability to invite additional users, whether that's to invite via email or invite via CSV. And this is where they'll all be listed. In addition to that, you can look here and see what groups they are a part of, and then also those privileges of demoting and promoting users to whatever you need them to be at, whether that's they were an administrator and now they need to be a user or vice versa. And Julia will go into a little bit of these details over here on the right where you can look more at the users individually. But this is specifically where you have the ability to look at all your users as a whole. When it comes to creating groups, when we say groups in StatPearls, think about it as classes, cohorts, subgroups. So anytime you want to group different students or residents or users into a population, you're able to create custom groups for that. So again, when we have an LMS integration piece, we're able to do that automatically from your LMS, but for now, we're talking about creating those groups ourselves and managing them and sub-managing them. So to create a group, you'll see here that we have all the groups that are listed out that we've already created within our TDS Help team. But it's very simple up here on the top right-hand side. You have the selection to create new group, where again, you name your group, you select the administrators you want, and you give it a brief description of what that group is for your own reference. That's where you have the ability to create the groups on your side, appoint those group administrators. Again, those group administrators are specifically those who you want to administer that group. So somewhat different from an organization administrator who is looking at all the different groups and managing all the different people. This is if you've got someone you just want to be working on these 15 students or maybe these 20 students that you're wanting them to focus on for a semester or so. And so once you create a group, which I'll go ahead and open up our customer engagement group, it'll look something like this, which you'll find looks very similar to the overall user page. We're just looking at the users specifically of your group. So again, you have the ability to see who's all in that group, what their role is, again, promoting and demoting those people dependent on the needs, and then also creating assignments for those users, which Julia will go into. So that about sums up my opening, just StatPearls as a whole, brief introduction to the LMS and the groups and users. Does anybody have any additional questions for me before I turn it over to Julia to do more of a deeper demo?
I have a question here, but I know Julia will be covering it, so I think we're good.
Okay, great. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen and let Julia take over. And again, if you have questions about your groups and your users, you're not seeing your administrator, anything like that, please reach out to us. We can work with you on that. It's a pretty easy fix on our end. So I'll go ahead and stop and hand it over to you, Jules.
Thanks, Jenna. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. So hopefully you all can see this okay. So I'm going to pick up pretty much exactly where Jenna left off, where you can see that we're on our customer engagement demo group admin side. I'm logged in as an administrator. So you can see here, I can still see that LMS admin tab on the left and all of this information about the different groups we have. So within this group, you can see we have our 15 users that are a part of our specific group that we're in. And I'm going to walk you through these 3 different options that we have on the top toolbar here. And then later on go into how we can see some different usage about our members. So the first thing that we want to take a look at is our quizzes tab. This is where, as an admin, you can manage all of the quizzes that are assigned to the users within this group. So you can see on the bottom here, we have our already created quizzes, and we have a tab for our assigned quizzes. And then up here, to create a new quiz, it's as simple as clicking on this icon. This brings us to our new screen, which looks very similar to just how we create quiz assignments as a user within StatPearls, just a few other options since we're an admin and we're making this to be sent out to multiple users. So you can see here, we can give our quiz a name, a brief description, choose which quiz type we want. Again, similar to the user side of being able to choose our study mode or our test mode. With the study mode, as you can see here, it will give us the answer and the teaching points and rationales right after the student answers every question. Whereas with the test mode, it will give those answers and explanations at the end of the entire assessment, not as students are going through it. You can see here, you can change your question bank. So if your institution has access to multiple different Q banks, this is where you would select which one you want to use for this quiz. And then our next option is being able to filter the types of questions that we want within this quiz. So this is a great tool that StatPearls has, and it's very built out and robust already. You can see here we have a filter by sciences tab. So right now I'm already clicked on the all anatomical, clinical, and pharmaceutical sciences. But if we want to get more granular, we can open up this plus right here. And it brings us into all of the different categories that we have. So every question is categorized accordingly within each one of these categories, obviously depending on where it fits. So let's say if we wanted surgery, we would simply just click on that. And you can select multiple options at once within each one of these categories as well. For today, I'm just going to keep on all of the sciences. going down a little bit here, you can see we have all of our questions populated on the bottom and some other filter and columns tabs here. So if I click on that filters tab, this just provides another way for us to see which questions we want to pull out into our quiz. So we can search by a specific term in the question. We can search by a specific term in the article that's associated with each question. And we can also organize if the question has already been used in another quiz and which level we want. So level 1 being the easiest, level 4 being the hardest. I am just going to X out of that for now and go into our columns tab. You can see the columns tab will just show what we have available here.
Sorry, Julia, to interrupt. I did get a question about how those levels are determined.
Yeah, so the levels, as we saw, the levels go from 1 to 4. 1 is the easiest level, 4 is the most expert level, and the level type is determined by the question writers, who are all experts in the fields depending on the question bank, and they categorize those appropriately. So the levels can, change as we add new questions, and they're always looking at the content within StatPearls, not just limited to the levels. Questions, articles, everything as a whole is constantly being reviewed. So you can be sure that it's as accurate as it can possibly be. I hope that answers the question. Great, so once we have all of those filters selected for what we wanted to build for this quiz, we can go into this pre-select question. So this makes it a lot easier than having to go on this left-hand side here and manually select which questions you want. Again, we can go by those difficulty levels 1 to 4 and select what we want there. Number of questions in our quiz, click that pre-select button. And in a few seconds here, it will load up and select our 2 questions that were automatically and randomly selected. You can click on the question to get more information, but I'm going to scroll down and move on to our next step, which is creating our quiz. Now you can see here that test quiz that I just created on today, has been created and is available in this list of all of our created quizzes. To assign this to the students that are in our group, all we would do is click on this plus icon with a little piece of paper, and we'll be able to create an assignment. So we can create a title for the assignment, a description, start date and due date, as well as an allowed duration and a few other options, as you can see below here, that you can select. One great option about the start date and due date is that you could create all of your quizzes and assignments at the beginning of the semester for the entire year, and then they would automatically be sent out to students when that time comes, and the due date would automatically close. So you don't have to be doing that week by week. This can be something that's set up very far in advance. And like Jenna mentioned, when we have those options of being able to delegate an administrator to a specific group, this is a great task for a TA to take on or anyone else who's assisting you with the course. So I'm going to click on assign, and you can see here that that was pulled over into our assigned quizzes. And once our users begin to complete that, we'll see how many people have done so in this overview right here. We can also edit the assignment and delete it if we needed to as well. I'm going to move on to our testing option, which is very similar to what we just saw in the quizzes, but the only difference here is that with testing, this is pulling a set of questions that is completely unique to just these tests. So you're not going to be getting questions that are available publicly for students to use in their self-studying ways. These are, again, just specific questions for these tests. So this is a great option just for kind of that added security as a faculty member to know that the quizzes or that the tests that you're making and assigning are actually, able to be used for their course grades, since it's not any sort of questions that they might have already seen. I'm going to click on create a private test just so that you can see a quick overview of exactly how that's set up. It's the exact same as the quizzes. The only option that's different is our lockdown test mode. So with this, you can see the test will be administered with the StatPearls questions, same as if we use the normal mode, but students will have to have the lockdown browser on their device, and from there, it will be secured so that they can't be accessing the internet. You can have a camera on option if you want, and just have that kind of added layer of security to prevent anything going on other than just taking the test. This is great for hybrid courses or fully remote courses as well. We see this used quite often.
Julia, I just got a question about that lockdown test mode. Does an institution have to buy that lockdown browser, or do they have to have it? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So it's completely free for an institution to use this, completely free for users to download the lockdown browser. It takes about 5 minutes to install it on your computer. We recommend using it on a computer or on a desktop, laptop or desktop. It doesn't work as well with mobile devices. But like I mentioned, it's a quick 5-minute free download that you can use. And if students want to test if they have the lockdown browser already, before they go into assignment, it does give an option for that so they can be sure there's no interference with their actual test and assessment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And if there's any other questions on any of this, as we mentioned earlier, feel free to just pop it in our Q&A, and we're happy to help out in any way we can. So as you can see, this is very similar to what we just saw with our quizzing mode, same options of being able to pre-select, filter, etc. And then we can create our tests from there. I'm going to go back into our admin page just so that we can take a look at the last tab here, which is our reading assignments. The reading assignments are created off of the articles that are built within StatPearls. So to do that, we would simply create a reading list. Again, I feel like a broken record here, but you can see that the template is very similar to what we just saw with that quizzes and that test, which is great for consistency. You don't need to learn a new skill every time you just want to make one of these. We do have the same sorts of filters that you can use to find those different reading articles that you want in. So let's say I want to assign these 2 articles to our students. You can click on that and click Create Reading List. And if you haven't seen an article in StatPearls before, I'm quickly just going to show you what that looks like. You can see we have the entire article here. Everything is already covered within your subscription, so students can copy and paste any content that they want and put that into their notes. And scrolling all the way down to the bottom, what is really kind of the standout feature here is just how much, first of all, content is within each one of these articles, but then also our references are very clearly laid out with the corresponding PubMed articles that you can simply click on right there to find any further info that you need about that specific topic. Hopping back over to our dashboard, just going to go into those reading assignments so you can see again, there is our assessment. You simply click on that plus icon, same options as the quiz and test, click assign, and that will populate under our assigned readings here, where then we can see those same details as the quizzing and testing. The final thing that I just wanted to cover is going on to our users tab here. As we mentioned earlier, these are all of the users within our group, and how we could see some additional details about these users, let's say their statistics on their performance, is we would find that user that we wanted to see and click on this home icon. And you can see now I'm viewing Kate's dashboard. So I can see that she has those quizzes all assigned to her, the tests assigned to her, and her readings already good to go. We'd be able to see her upcoming quizzes, how she has done, and then also her progress on what she's answered, not only within those assessments that I've assigned to her as an instructor, but also just on her own. I can check in and see how she's been doing on her self-studying, which makes this a great remediation tool just to monitor your students' performance and make sure if you see any trends overall of what's going on and they need additional help on, you can do so from looking at their profiles in this area. Awesome. And the last thing I just wanted to point out is that we do have a help feature down here. You can help in contact in that area, but also you can feel free to reach out to us. And there is a StatPearls help portal, which we will include in our follow-up as well, so that you can make sure if there's any other questions that we can't answer as a team, or that your territory manager is having difficulty answering and you just want a quick response, their help portal is a great resource as well. But obviously we're here to help and would love to assist you in any way we can to make sure you're using StatPearls to its fullest potential. So I hope that was
Great.
helpful.
Yeah, thanks. I did have one question. Are there reports to see for the group versus each user? And I can answer that. Currently it's based on each user. So really wanting to dive into the performance of each user versus the group. So that's currently how it's set up. But we can always, the nice thing about StatPearls and our TDS Health's relationship with StatPearls is that we can provide any user feedback if that's a feature that you feel would be imperative as a faculty member. We can provide that feedback to them, and they are constantly updating and improving their platform. So yeah, that's great to hear that feedback, that's a need. But that's it. Yeah, thank you, Julia, for going through the help portal. If you dive into there a bit more, there's videos on each one of these features. This will send out a recording for this after the fact, of course, so you can have it all in one place. But again, if you need to have a specific maybe training session with a group of faculty at your institution and specifically go over the test banks that you have access to and how your users can register, we can certainly do that on a one-on-one basis. And after you leave the session here, there will be a survey that indicates, how this went, but also what you would like to see in future sessions. So please fill that out. And yeah, I think we're good. And I don't see any more questions from anybody, but thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Julia, for this session. And again, we'll follow up with everyone that attended. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye.